Hi there. Today we're going to be working on a landscape because it's spring here in New York. The weather's getting warmer and it's just a really fun time of year. I'm going to be using a thicker watercolor paper. If you don't have this at home, you can use your sketchbook, but if you have access to thicker paper, I love it and I highly recommend it. Today I'm also just going to be using a pencil. You don't even need to use a ruler for this. I'm going to just start to sketch out my landscape. And just like when we did 1 point perspective, I start with a horizon line. But this is your choice. How do you want to orient your paper? Will it be portrait orientation, landscape? You can do either one. Where do you want your horizon line to go? Maybe you're going to do a lot in the sky. So you want your horizon line down low so you have a lot of sky space. Maybe you want to do a really cool ground scene. So maybe your horizon line will go up high. Maybe it's in the middle. Your choice. But wherever you want your horizon line to be, use your pencil. And from one side of the paper to the other, draw your line across. I'm drawing kind of dark so you can see, but make sure yours is nice and light. Then in the middle of the horizon line, I'm going to put a dot to represent the vanishing point. Right now, my landscape looks like it might be in a desert or on a flat plain. You get to decide what type of environment you want. If you want some hills, you can add them. If you want some mountains, you can add them. So it's up to you. Maybe you have some hills coming in. The more random, the more realistic they will look. So I kind of wobbled right there. It actually makes it look more realistic. Maybe you have some mountains kind of sneaking in between. We drew tulips the other day and we had these kind of like pointy little triangles hidden in between for tulip petals. That could be your mountain if you want. That one kind of looks like an M, and it's okay if they're kind of shaky. So if you want to add some hills or mountains, you could do that. I'm layering them behind one another. Next, I'm going to add some fun things in the foreground. I'm going to be drawing a stream, and I want to show you some tricks. When I draw my stream, I actually do a lot of horizontal lines that are back and forth like my horizon line, but I add little S's to them or Z's. So let me show you on the back. So I might start with kind of a horizontal line and add a little S or a Z wiggle, and it's horizontal, SZ. So I have a lot of horizontal lines, and sometimes they're short, sometimes they're long, and they kind of wiggle away. Now, whenever you're drawing something, especially using perspective, far away, the lines tend to be closer. And as you get towards the bottom of your paper, they kind of spread out. So if you just do that one little trick, it's going to look super realistic. Closer by the vanishing point, wider towards the bottom of the paper. So even if you did kind of a stream or a path with a lot of horizontals and S's and Z's, towards the bottom here, you can make it spread out. And maybe it's a combination of either one of those. Maybe it's just more of a wiggle line. But let's start at the vanishing point and kind of draw some horizontal squished S's and Z's. Mine's going to go off the corner. Right here by the vanishing point, they'll be really close together. And then now they're slowly going to drift farther and farther apart. And that's my little stream that I made. I'm also going to have a path. So you could do the same thing with the path if you want. Maybe it's a little bit less wiggly. But I started with 2 lines at the vanishing point and they got wider towards the bottom. And I know that's kind of hard to see, but make sure you draw nice and light. Now the next thing I'm going to do is a little bit stressful. I'm going to plant some trees next to my path, but they're going to grow really tall. So I'm going to draw 2 guidelines. The first one is coming from my vanishing point and heading along the path. So a really light straight line along the path. Now I'm going to do the same thing high up in the sky. And we will erase it later. So a lot of people get stressed, but draw nice and light from your vanishing point up and off the top of your paper. Oh my. Sometimes I even draw a line kind of towards the middle. Maybe you draw 3. These are guidelines. We're using them now to draw, but we're going to erase them. And when I draw my trees, I am going to try to draw them with perfectly vertical up and down lines, which is really, really hard. Your brain is going to want your trees to tip a little bit, but we really don't want to get squished by a tree. So try to make sure your lines are vertical, which means they're parallel to the side of your paper. So I'm going to draw some vertical lines, and I'm just hand drawing them. So I started down here at the bottom, I planted them, went up to the top. Now the next one I'm going to space out a little farther, and I'm trying to keep it perfectly horizontal. But as I move towards the vanishing point, they're going to get a little closer, and a little closer, and a little closer, and I could squeeze a few more in. Some people like to turn their paper when they do that, but you can do it however you want. Feel free to pause the video if you need to. Now, the next step is to decide what kind of a tree you want. It doesn't have to be exact, but I'll show you on another piece of paper. You could do what I call a Y tree, like a maple tree or an oak tree. That kind of starts with a skinny trunk, the letter Y, some V branches going off. You could do a tree like that if you want. Or you could do more of an evergreen tree, which is almost an upside down rectangle or triangle. I'm sorry. Oh my goodness. Skinny at the top and then slowly wider at the bottom. So you get to decide what kind of trees you want. Maybe you vary them, but think a little bit about that. And once you've decided on your trees, we're going to start to draw in either the branches or the triangle over here. So I have this other guideline. I'm going to use that for my Ys of my branches. I'm going to draw my branches, but I'm going to stop when I get to this top line. So I'm drawing a lot of branches, but then I'm going to stop once I get to this top line, approximately. And you can do some erasing if you need to. So I'm drawing in some Y branches. And then you can use your eraser to erase any guidelines that you don't need or any branches that you no longer need. So I'm going to erase this guideline here, erase this guideline here, erase this guideline, maybe erase some of those inner trunks. There we go. And now you have what looks like trees going back to your vanishing point. We could do a lot of other things if you want, like a fence. And you can use this same idea. So here's a little fence. I'm going to start with a kind of a straight line that goes along, pardon the bell, straight line that goes along the stream from the vanishing point out. Another one right above. And you do the same thing. Vertical, vertical, vertical. And it'll slowly start to get closer and closer and closer together. Have fun with this. Decide what you want to draw in your landscape, what details you want. And in the front, we can even start to think about some things we can add there. I can't wait to see what you create. Have fun. Use your imagination.